When it comes to who's the best Hokage, every Naruto fan has their own opinion about this. There have been hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of discussions on who the best Hokage is and who the worst Hokage is. I've certainly made videos on both of those topics, and I know people don't agree with those at all, but I mean, that's the problem with having an opinion. Everybody's got one. But that's the thing, right? So there are strong cases that can be made for and against both aspects of the discussion, depending on who you're arguing for or against. In the Naruto universe, if you ask somebody like, say, Iwabe, who the best Hokage is, you're probably gonna hear it come down to either being Kakashi the 6th Hokage or Naruto the 7th Hokage. Recency bias is a thing, people. But for the very first time, we now have the answer to who Kakashi Hatake, a man who became Hokage himself. We now know who he holds in high regard as his first choice for Hokage, as well as the person he would choose as a very close number 2, which I found to be absolutely shocking. In today's edition of Kakashi Resident, we're gonna take a look at the moment when Kakashi reveals which Hokage he holds in high regard. So for those of you guys who are unaware, Kakashi Resident is a story that takes place between the Majina Bandits arc and the Owl arc of the Boruto manga, which is the first in the trilogy of novels that centers around the S-rank missions given to Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura to find a cure for the chakra illness that's slowly killing Naruto. In the scene I'm going to share with you guys, Kakashi has put Toneri, the prince of the faraway country of Redaku, finally he's put him to sleep, and Kakashi has finally finished reading one of the books that he stole out of the royal library, which was forbidden even to members of, ironically, the royal family itself. The book in question that he's finished reading is the story of the 6th Hokage. Upon arriving in Redaku, Kakashi kept his true identity hidden, and Kakashi learns of the legends that have revolved around the 6th Hokage. Given that Redaku takes a highly trained ninja over 30 days to travel to, Kakashi grows curious about what the people on this very faraway continent wrote about Kakashi during his youth, as well as Kakashi rising up the ranks to become Hokage. It's upon finishing the book that Kakashi puts himself down as Hokage and privately rattles off names of people who he believes should be more deserving than he to have their stories told and exaggerated to a point where they're now considered to be myths in this faraway land. So what I'll do for you guys now is read the scene in question, then I'll come back to you guys with my thoughts, and it's here I'm going to begin quoting. This was probably someone who put rumors together, and they spoken from merchant to merchant, and they put everything all together in one book. Somehow all this information was transmitted to the country of Redaku, and the rest was settled from there. Well, if they want to make it a myth anyway, they should choose a more heroic person as the main character, Kakashi thought to himself. His best recommendation was that of the 4th Hokage. It's difficult to ignore the 7th Hokage, but his story was still incomplete, and it would be awkward to make legends out of somebody like Naruto. Kakashi saw that Toneri was such a huge fan of the story, and Kakashi was curious to read what had been written about him, but Kakashi couldn't help but laugh. Well, this is some pretty beautiful fiction, but it's still fiction at the end of the day. The 6th Hokage in this book was depicted as being a hero at all times, with strength and tenderness, always pulling everyone forward, always saving everybody. Kakashi disagreed. I couldn't even save my best friend, and in the end, I could only find a reason to keep fighting, only in his atonement. I'm nothing like what's said in this book. To Kakashi, this was a story that it just sounded great, with a memorable part that had been extracted and transformed and turned into something completely different altogether. It was just like the legendary Sannin, who were also treated like legends in other countries, or even the White Fang of Konoha, but in reality, they were all just human beings. The man itself never actually lived up to what the legend portrayed him to be. If one of these is in a difficult situation, they will suffer, they'll bleed, they'll be human, they'll be hurt by the words of others, just like anyone else. That's the problem with myths. Myths don't take into account that a man is just a man. End quote. So what really stands out here is the obvious fact that Kakashi believes that Minato's story was more deserving of being praised than his own. Minato, a man who single-handedly wiped out 1,000 ninja in the blink of an eye. Minato, who was able to react at point-blank range to an attack by the future Hokage, casually flicking his own kunai in another direction, teleporting to a separate kunai, and then teleporting to the kunai he just flicked in order to counter A before A even realized what happened. Minato was someone who even the inventor of the flying Raijin on more than one occasion praised Minato's skill with the jutsu, and even Tobirama Senju went so far as to state that Minato had surpassed him using the flying thunder god. There's certainly an argument that can be made faith that any guy who could teleport away a Biju bomb and fight against the strongest of all the tailed beasts deserved to have his story told, especially when you consider the fact that Minato died at the age of 24 and was arguably just entering into his prime years, and it's somebody like this who needed to have legends told about him so Minato's name and legacy would continue to live on. Even more interesting here is the fact that Kakashi immediately thinks of the current Hokage, ironically the person who's the reason why he's even here in Redaku. Kakashi says that Naruto's story isn't over yet, and it'd be weird to write legends about it. It's a very clever way of indirectly showing how much Kakashi's determined to find a cure for Naruto's chakra illness. Make no mistake, if it's left untreated, Naruto's illness could both rob him of the ability to mold chakra and kill him in the process. There's a reason why Kakashi stepped out of retirement in order to find this cure. By stating that Naruto's story isn't over yet, it really shows you that despite not having found a cure yet, Kakashi still hasn't lost hope. Though the looming specter of Naruto's potential death at the hands of this chakra illness has been enough so that Kakashi's begun reflecting on the losses of those who he'd held close to his heart. Obito, Rin, his father the White Fang, Minato, and so many others. A man who had lost so many he had cared about had stood at the edge of a very bottomless cliff, unsure if the answer to the cure for his student's chakra illness could be found at the bottom, and even if it was to be found down there, Kakashi had no idea if he'd be able to make it back in time to administer the cure. It's moments like this where logic says you have no reason to wish for hope, that men tend to hope against hope, praying for an outcome that is outside of their control, but ultimately hoping that things will turn in a favorable light. For Kakashi, placing Naruto behind Naruto's father as the top candidate for legends to be written about the Hokage of Konoha, it really shows you that Kakashi doesn't want Naruto to suffer the same fate that his father did, being just like Minato died being the Hokage, so too would Naruto carry on the Hokage curse of being one of the Hokage who died while holding that mantle. So what did you guys think about this, and what do you guys think about what I deem to be a Hokage's curse, given the fact that so many of them have died while being in office? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, but as always guys, like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day guys.